and then I get to go. So it's like symbiotic. Good evening, and welcome to the City Commission meeting. It's our regular meeting on February the 21st, and I'd like to call this meeting to order and ask for the roll call, please.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell.
Here.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell.
Here.
Commissioner Rocky Smith.
Here.
Commissioner Adam Marl.
Here.
Mayor Denise McGriff.
Present. Would you please all stand and join me in the flag salute? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I'm trying to make it a touch screen. Thank you so much, everyone. Item number 3 on our agenda is one of the things that the City Commission really likes to get to do, and it is the oath of office for a new Oregon City police officer, and it's very, very exciting. So I'm going to turn it over very briefly to our fabulous chief, Mr. Sean Davis.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. Tonight we have the privilege and honor of swearing in Matthew Pavey. So if Matthew can come up front. Matthew, just a little bit about him. He's born and raised in Oregon City, and he graduated from Oregon City High School. At 18, he was hired as a cadet with the Milwaukee Police Department. In 2021, he was hired full-time as a police officer with the Gladstone Police Department, and where he spent about 2 years there. And on January 2nd of this year, he lateraled over and started working with the Oregon City Police Department. He has a passion for traffic enforcement. Tonight he is joined by his mother, Lori, his father, Greg, Sergeant Mark Inman with the Milwaukee Police Department, who is his former cadet sergeant, and all of our officers, including Officer Sydney Oden, who he's friends with Sydney and Sydney's husband, and so she helped recruit him over here. So turn it over to you.
Bonus points. All right, are you ready? Okay, solemnly raise your right hand, and you've got here so you can read it. So you say I, and then repeat your name.
I, Matthew Pavey,
Keep going.
do solemnly swear that I will uphold the law and support the Constitution of the United States and the state of Oregon. I will abide by the law enforcement code of ethics and the department's rules and regulations, while faithfully performing my duties as a police officer for Oregon City, Oregon.
Congratulations. So we'll do our photo op, and then we'll have you sign your life away right here. So commissioners, could you come on so we can all take a picture? You're there, and I'm here. I'll make sure we get the city of Oregon City. Oh, yes, can we see the city of Oregon City? Come on, Chief. Come on over here. Come on. While you stand up. All right. Big smile. Awesome. Everyone, please. So Captain Davis, how many more slots do we have to fill? Chief. Yes, I keep wanting to call you Captain, don't I? Because that's
That's all right. I was that for a
sorry,
long time.
Chief Davis. You were a captain. You are now not the captain.
Don't come
You
in
are a
late for
chief.
dinner, we'll be good. Currently, we're down 5 positions.
Get there.
5 positions.
Countdown.
And does that include the retirements that you have on the
Yeah.
horizon?
No. We have 5 in training, so we recently got one off training last week, and he's on his own, and Matthew Pavey's progressing very fast, and so hopefully by the end of this month, first part of March, he'll be on his own too. So he's actually working patrol tonight.
Cool.
On swing shift,
Awesome.
Great.
Okay. Yeah, by the way, nobody else can retire now. So that's good.
What's that?
Nobody else can retire.
Hopefully not.
All right, so item number 4 is that we have Jackie Hammond-Williams who would like to talk to the commission. Come on up, please.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Jackie Hammond-Williams from the Park Place Neighborhood Association. I'm here tonight just to show our support as a neighborhood for the Safe Routes to School infrastructure program. We're delighted that there's going to be more sidewalks on Holcomb. We're getting a busier neighborhood, as you all know, and the traffic is increasing. And we want those kiddos to be safe walking to school. We're also very grateful to the city for putting into crosswalks. Pedestrian lighted crosswalks have made a huge difference. I use them a lot. I also just wanted to let you know briefly that I did go in front of the Transportation Advisory Committee last night with a slideshow about the bottom half of Holcomb, you know, from Steve's Market down around the bend. Showing, you know, a slideshow. I didn't think you guys needed to see more slides of Holcomb, but it is a very constrained road. There's no safe pedestrian connection still from this neighborhood, our neighborhood, to the rest of the city. And after living there for 34 years and seeing multiple developments over the decades, it's still the same. The upper portion of Holcomb is looking good. We've got more and more sidewalks, nice wide roads, etc., but the bottom half is constrained. And I know it's a big problem. I mean, it's huge. It's constrained by topography, trees that we can't cut because of the landslide issue. And I have talked to Mr. Lewis about this, and we're having an ongoing conversation. So just wanted to bring that to your attention and to say that the neighborhood really isn't going away about this issue. We do feel it is a safety issue for the residents of our neighborhood, some of which have to use it. I mean, I use it recreationally, but that path, that connection down to the rest of the city. But a lot of people do have to walk it for jobs, for appointments, to get food at the Plaid Pantry. It's a dangerous corner, as we know, and it's very constrained. I mean, I will come back if you want me to and show you more slides of how constrained it is, but you can drive up and take a look, I'm sure. So anyway, that was it, really. I just wanted to say that we're not going to give up this subject because we really feel it's very important for our residents to have a safe pedestrian connection to the rest of the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I was wondering if you recall when we did the little ODOT right away there where the Park Place sign is, we have the stairs going up from from the Plaid Pantry up, and the big issue at the time was, okay, so we've got you up there, there's a little bit of sidewalk, and then where does it go?
Right.
And again, that wasn't part of the project we did with ODOT, but that's been something that's been on the books for a long time, so.
Sure.
But thank you for bringing it to the attention of the TAP. Go ahead, Commissioner Smith.
Thank you.
Question, Jackie, because by memory, there was a fatality at some recent on Holcomb on the lower part. I don't know exactly where that was, but there was a question at that time when you brought it to our attention, or other residents brought it to our attention, and I think there was some conversation that the road had been restriped at some point in that area, and there was a question of whether the restriping was taking away space, and whatever came of that conversation, and did anything ever come of it, or did it just... I just remember it, a little bit of that conversation. I don't remember what.
I believe so. I think the striping had not... I can't speak truthfully on that matter.
Okay.
I know that The poor lady had a vision issue. She was pretty much blind, and I think she got turned around and stepped out in front of a car. And in fact, when I came last time and did show you slides of that bend, if you remember, there was, the right-of-way was had not been striped right, but the city was right out and did it very quickly, and it's now back to what it should be.
Okay.
But it still isn't safe.
Safe, right,
So,
okay, just
yeah,
wanted
for
to, I remember
pedestrians,
that
yeah.
conversation, but,
Yeah, I think John
Okay.
did it right away. They got it striped, but it's
Yeah,
still
did.
pretty narrow through there.
thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone online that would like to comment? Okay, all right, so let's move on to our next item, which is the adoption of the, oh, excuse me. It is Chief Davis doing the Police Department Annual Report,
Get the clicker.
and we will have some slides.
Yes.
I think we should have John be a consultant on any of the slides.
All right, Mayor, Commission, good evening. I got several slides tonight to show you talk about our year in review. I know it's been several years since we've actually done a formal annual report for the commission. I think it's important to provide transparency and highlight the good work that our staff is doing every day. There's a lot of slides here, but I think we can move through them. Feel free to stop me if you have questions as we go along, or we can wait to the end. But I think John Lewis will be impressed with the amount of slides I have. So.
Well, didn't you go to the John Lewis School of PowerPoint?
I did. I was taking, yes.
And you've taken the advanced course, so see, you're good. You're all good.
We'll enter you into the competition. Go ahead.
But again, I think it's important to highlight everything we're doing, and there's a lot of public interest in what we do, so that's why there's a lot of slides. So here's our department, right? In 2023, we held a department meeting, and we were able to take a department photo, which we hadn't done for several years. But our current full-time staffing is 47 sworn officers, and we have 15, or allocated, and we have 15 and a half non-sworn. In 2023, we hired 7 sworn police officers and 4 non-sworn employees. Unfortunately, in 2023, we had 7 sworn employees leave. 3 of those were due to retirements. 1 went to a neighboring agency across the river, he got promoted as a sergeant over there. 2 didn't make training, and 1 got out of law enforcement and moved out of the state. We also had 3 non-sworn leave. I'm going to start off with some calls for service data. So calls for service is anything that's inputted in our CAD system. So that could be someone calling 911. It could be someone calling saying, I just have a question, I need information. It could be any self-initiated activity we do, a traffic stop, contacting someone walking down the street. So as you can see, in 2023, we had just over 29,000 calls for service, which is about a 1% increase from the year before. What I'd like to highlight on the next, on the right side of the PowerPoint is our self-initiated calls for service. So these are traffic stops. When we're contacting someone that may be up to no good, that would be a subject stop, or someone we know that has a warrant, or community contact, which is just mere conversation. So you can see we had quite a few calls for service there, and actually 27% of our calls for service are self-initiated activities. So our officers are out there trying to deter crime and make our streets safe. I wanted to highlight these 2 categories specifically because they come up in topics a lot. Homeless-related calls for service. So I want to give a little context to this slide. Previously, we had a CAD where we could do a keyword search. And we used to do a lot of our analysis through keyword searches because we don't really, CCOM or dispatch center doesn't have a category of homelessness, right? Because it's not illegal and it's not really a call for service. So there's no call type that says homelessness. So we would have to do keyword search of any related terms to find out how many calls we actually responded to. So in March of 2018, we actually got a new CAD system. We went through that whole year, we tried to pull stats, and we realized that new CAD system does not allow keyword searches. So it made it very difficult. So we had to come up with an alternative. So in October of 2019, we created a clearance code. So anytime we're dealing with someone that might be homeless, right, we use these clearance codes. So you could see 2020 was the first full year that we actually used that clearance code, and you could see the steady increase of our calls for service with homeless-related individuals. These are fairly accurate, however, it's officer discretion on how they clear a call. So for an example, a normal clearance code that we took a report is R1, but we want them, or we ask them to take a H1 if they clear a call involving a homeless person that involves a report. So by habit, sometimes they can clear a different way. So they could clear multiple different clearance codes. So they're fairly accurate, but I think they're underreported. And then our behavioral health related calls for service, we'll talk about that later. But that is impressive. It's actually trending down on our calls for service, so that's good. But you'll see what our BHU unit is actually doing, which is actually trending up significantly. I want to talk really quickly about stops. I know this has been presented before, but in 2017, legislation was passed that made law that all law enforcement agencies had to report specific data related to any officer-initiated traffic stop or pedestrian stop. And I'd like to note that that is all by the perception of the officer. We don't ask any individual what their race is or how old they are or whatever that. It's all perception, and it's based on the perception as soon as we can identify who that person might be. So if someone's driving by in the middle of the night and we never saw it or we were behind them, the officer may not perceive who that person is until they walk up to that car. So I'd just like to point out that. Additionally, when we collect the data, that data gets sent to the state, and the Criminal Justice Commission performs analysis of all the data for every law enforcement agency in the entire state. So you can imagine that's a big time-consuming process, and every December they release the report. But we're able to analyze our own data, and so we'll move into that because I think it's important, because they don't, in the state report, it's not very granular. It's more on a bigger level, higher level. So you can see out of our 7,323 reported stops, 92% of those were related to traffic stops. Of those stops, 65% were male and 34% were female. We could break it down, right, because it's reporting on race. So we break it down on total stops. Out of all of our total stops, this is the race or ethnicity of the groups of individuals that we stopped. We break it down, and I broke it down by female and also male of the individuals that we stopped. I'd like to point out too that the criminal justice system, and I don't want to get too scientific, when they get the data, they analyze it in a three-pronged approach, right? So they're trying to figure out if there's any disparities in an agency, right? And then if there is something and it meets a threshold, they will then contact DPSST. DPSST will reach out to that agency, provide further training. All of our data is within all the norms. And I'd also like to highlight that we're a unique spot. We have one interstate that goes through our city, and we have two state highways, Highway 99E and Highway 213. So we have a huge transitory population coming through our city that brings all kinds of individuals through our city and into our city.
Chief, does the BPST calculation take that into account, that you have these major venues that go through your city?
So stop data, not necessarily, right? They use it against our census data. So inherently it's flawed because, and they'll even say that. So the true measure to do this, which is very difficult, very time consuming, and would give a little bit better accurate reflection, is if we took all of our crash data that we responded to and then analyze that compared to our stop data to see, do those demographics match in relation to traffic crashes. However, you could see later, we don't take a whole lot of traffic crash reports. A lot of those are exchange information. So that data just isn't there because we go to a lot of traffic crashes and they just exchange information, and it's not as reported on as this is. This is a requirement that we have to do on every self-initiated activity.
And are we still working in tandem with the school district with a school resource officer?
Yeah.
Is his data included in these figures?
No. So he's doing a lot of mere conversation, right? So he's just doing contacts. That's not one that's needed to do because he's not stopping individuals, right? He's walking through the halls, talking to individuals. We don't report on if we get a call for service say of a speeding vehicle, right? And we find that speeding vehicle, or we think we find that speeding vehicle, and we stop a vehicle related to that, that's not a reportable stop, because that is a dispatch call for service. So there's a lot of nuances to this. So this is just when we're out driving around and we decide, hey, I need to stop this car, or I need to talk to this person for whatever reasons. And then we have to, that wasn't a dispatch call for service, and then we have to report on very specific categories of our perceived of this individual.
Yeah, I was thinking more in terms of whatever you call field contact reports or possible interventions when someone's in a crisis mode.
Yeah, so that's the majority of his contacts are not in there.
Okay.
And that's a lot of ours, all the community contacts are not counted in there, because that's just a mere conversation. We're not actually stopping someone, we're walking up and talking to them, just seeing if they need services or whatever. So a lot of our contacts have to be reported, but there's very specific ones that have to. Our police reports, so this is when we decide or need to take a police report. So you can see we wrote the second most police reports, sorry, I did move it. You move things. The second most police reports in the 5-year comparator. We took about 3,347 offense incident reports, which is essentially a crime report. We arrested 1,393 people. And so a field contact would be that maybe we contacted someone on a pedestrian stop in a neighborhood in the middle of the night. They didn't belong there. We decided to do a field contact, and in case something got reported the next day, we can then follow up with that person. We use those too. Our homeless liaison officer uses those to document some of his contacts with offering services, so we can document that we are offering services to individuals. Additionally, our records process 674 report requests. You can see that could be discovery, public records requests, and highlight that we passed our CGIS audit, which that's an audit, that's a criminal justice information system that's with LEDs and the data that we have to adhere to very strict standards that's controlled by OSP. So most of that is IT related and security based. So kudos to Tyler Mariter, Michael DeBay and his team and our records for making sure that we're meeting all those standards.
Chief,
yeah.
Sorry, can you go back? What is supplement?
So supplemental report is a report like if I took a theft report and I then follow up and I talk to a witness or I gather evidence later at a different time or a different date, we'll write a supplemental report to basically it could, so if I talk to all 5 of you, I would write supplemental reports on all my individual contacts of what you say you're on a murder or whatever, and you guys all had witness statements. I'd write individual supplemental reports on your guys' statements. So
okay.
It basically ties into another crime report that's already there.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. This just highlights the amount of citations that we're writing. And later you'll see that our traffic team is writing nearly half of those citations, which is very common. In 2019, I'd just like to highlight that that's when we had a full traffic team. So having a full traffic team, obviously they're out there writing more tickets, right? They're enforcing the traffic laws. Because of staffing, we've had to reallocate some of our staffing. So currently we don't have a full traffic team, and I think that attributes to a lot of why we're down, but we're trending up. And then our arrest data right there on the right. So just highlight some of our police reports. The bottom graph is every police report category that we took 50 or more reports in. You can imagine we have a lot of reports that we take, and so I also categorize these into, lump them into groups. So theft is our highest number of reports that we actually take. DUIs, we did 102 DUIs. We had 100 stolen vehicles. DHS referral is a referral that's involved with kids that are under 18 involving DHS. So they'll send us referrals. Sometimes we have to go out and investigate them. Sometimes they're just information and we don't have to. So it could be a crime involving a kid. It may just be something that DHS has to report to us as just information. The upper graph I just wanted to share because it just shows our calls for service in property-related crimes are actually trending down. So I think that's good. And I think the more active we are out there, the more we're out there. Usually that curbs some of our crime. And so that has actually trended down the last several years. Actually, the lowest it's been in 5 years. And notably, it's not on here, but we had 3 homicides, and I'll talk about that later.
Is the hit and run, was that 401, the way I was reading that?
That's hit and runs were 150 something.
Oh, 150, okay.
Information reports are 400.
Oh, 401, okay.
Yep. And so that is something that we'll take a report sometime that's just information. It didn't rise to a crime level, but it was something that our officers or our sergeants decided that it was something we probably should document just in case later on it became a crime, or there might be some pertinent information that we need later. Use of force data. So when we use of force is basically anything that is other than cooperative handcuffing. So if someone cooperates and we put handcuffs on them, that's not a use of force. However, if we go to arrest someone and they start to resist, produce dead weight, and we have to use more than normal force, we document that. And so it could be as low as level as putting hands on someone to escort them because they're trying to pull away from us. And it could be up to all the way to an officer-involved shooting or deadly force. So you could see we had 1,393 arrests, and of those arrests, or of those incidents, we had 70 documented use of forces involving 72 suspects. We also had 125 individual use of force reports. So what that means is if I'm on a scene with multiple officers and we all use force, we all have to write a use of force report. So that's why there's a difference in use of force reports. We, unlike other agencies, categorize PIT, PIN, and vehicle-related as a use of force, because using those and implementing them it could cause someone maybe to spin out, lose someone to control, so it is a level of force. So we actually document those. So with all of our force being used, we only use force in 5.03% of the time when we effect arrest. When you take out the vehicle-related use of force, we're down to 3.8%. I don't have the national standards currently because you can compare. They're usually several years behind, 3, 4, 2. It all depends. But I could tell you that is way below the national standard. So this slide just breaks down the use of force on categories that we document use of force in. So you can see the top 4 categories, actually 1, 2, and 4 are all either joint manipulation, some sort of takedown, digital control, right? Very low levels of force. And then the vehicle-related use of force is in there. So we document all those in different categories. This slide is, we break it down by use of force by race and gender. So you can see the different levels of force that we use based upon, very similar to what we use for the stops data. Now I'm going to get out of the technical, and I'm going to talk about individual departments or divisions within our department. So I'm going to start with code enforcement. As you know, the budget committee approved the addition of another code enforcement officer in this biennium that was able to get us to 7-day-a-week coverage. So we actually hired 3 code enforcement officers because we had one who went into another profession. So we're very thankful for that.
We're thankful for that as well, because the budget committee recommended to us that we had to approve it.
Right. So the vision of the code enforcement team is to enhance the neighborhood livability and educate residents to resolve violations through voluntary compliance. But they're also out there assisting police, the department in a limited capacity to promote public safety. So they respond to traffic crashes, train derailments, anything that we need some sort of traffic control with, they go out there and they help us block off the streets. So they're a force multiplier for us. I believe this house is up here on Division Street near the hospital, if I'm not mistaken. So there was complaints, livability issues, and that's the before and after picture of that residence. Oops. In 2023, we had 1,923 total cases reported to code enforcement. That's the largest number in 5 years. And actually, it's nearly a 20% increase over 2022. We had just over 1,600 reports. So we haven't broken it down because it's new, but I think a lot of that's attributed to the coverage that we now have, right? They could be proactive out there. They could actually go out and investigate more complaints. And then the graph on the right side kind of breaks down the different categories of their cases. I want to give kudos to Ryan and his team. This was brought upon themselves. They thought of this, but in April this year, in 2023, they began a project called Keep Oregon City Clean, right? They got tired of driving around and seeing shopping carts around, and so they decided to clean up all the shopping carts, even though we have a company that goes around and is supposed to do that, that's hired by the stores. It was not being done in a timely fashion, so they took it upon themselves to go out there and clean up the right-of-ways. So since April, they cleaned up 333 shopping carts. We store it down at the old yard, and then we work with stores and the company to come pick up those.
Wow. And do they do that? Do they come and get them?
They do. When we're working with the stores who are paying the company to do it and to leverage that company to do it better. But I think over time, they're actually getting better at that. But Ryan's exploring other options of what does that look like? And he's working with stores, trying to get stores to get the more expensive shopping carts that lock at the edge of their property.
That's what I was going to ask you, because I know that Fred Meyer got them.
Right, so he's working with stores, right, because these shopping carts are expensive.
Yeah.
Last I remember, they're about $750 a cart, and so when they disappear, it's quite an impact on stores. So, and then when they get them back, right, they got to clean them, and so it's a very, very big impact. So Ryan's exploring different options, and what does that look like of how do we recuperate anything? Right now, we're just trying to make the livability of the city better. Highlight our detective team, some of the stuff that they do. In 2023, we had 2 detectives that actually got promoted to sergeant out of the unit, and they're currently patrol sergeants working the streets. And so we had to backfill them. So we have 2 new detectives that went in there throughout the year, and they're getting all their supplemental training as we speak, but they're fully active working out there. This is a case breakdown of their cases. I think it's kind of weird that they don't have as many cases because they're extremely busy, but I think they've done a lot more complex cases this year. And when they do complex cases, our patrol officers tend to keep the reports that they don't have to send to detectives and work those themselves. So they're not sending as many cases. We had 3 homicides, right? There's 4 separate major crimes teams, responses that they went out to throughout the county. They did 3 human trafficking missions and retail theft missions. So they're working really hard and really busy. So I don't think that's a good number because they were working some very big, complex cases there.
Did I miss the distinction between Series 1 and Series 2?
Series 1 and Series 2.
Back one slide.
Sorry about that.
The Series 2 and Series 1 case management, what does that entail?
I guess I'm not seeing that.
At the bottom, there's the key.
Oh, that's weird. That didn't get changed on my slide. It shows 22 and 23. My apologies. So that was original when they put it in the pivot table. It didn't come over. So the gray is 2022 and the orange is 2023. Talk about the notable cases. So unfortunately, and we had 3 homicides this last year in Oregon City. My 25 years doing this here, I can only think of 2 other times that we've had 3 homicides. Generally, we average about 1 a year, and on a bad year, we have 2. So this was a big year for our detectives in our city. And it accounted for 25% of all of the homicides in Clackamette County, which is extraordinary. In February, David Esterbrook was killed by his son, Mason. In July, Kara Taylor was killed by her roommate, Jamin Fritsch. And in November, Anna Wessel was killed by her husband. All these were domestic related. I'm proud to say that we made arrests in all these cases, and the suspects were all indicted for murder 2 and various other charges, and are currently sitting in jail and waiting for their cases to proceed. Just some of their supplemental duties. One of our detectives, Brent Wadsworth, he does polygraph examinations It's super helpful for us, and I think there's only 2 or 3 certified polygraphers in the state currently, which is very low, so he's very busy, but to get fully certified, he has to do 200 of those, so that's a lot, that's a big task, because when you're doing a criminal investigation polygraph, those polygraphs are hour to 2 hours long, interviews, all that kind of stuff, preparation, so it's a big lift for us, but it's it helps us out a lot. He just can't do a polygraph on his own case. That LexisNexis, that's a software that we got. And what it is it's a software that we're able to use cell phone data, location data from cell phones, plug it into mapping software, and then use that to plot where people have been. So it's been a huge help for us and helped solve several of our cases. So that was a big software that we got this last year. And then we don't preclude our detectives from being on this special investigation team in SWAT or CNT. So they also have extracurricular duties if they would like. This is our crime scene forensics, Lacey Snelson. This is her response time, responses to calls. I'd like to note that I think it was April, she got certified in Integrated Ballistic Identification System, also known as IBIS. And what that is it is where we plug in casings from a gun that's been fired from a gun. We plug it into a system, it maps that casing, and it gives a fingerprint that only that gun puts out on casings. So it's very good for us instead of having to ship it off. So now anytime we get a gun, we have it test fired, we then submit that casing, she goes to Portland Police Bureau, and she's got access, and then she plugs that in and does their own analysis. This last year, she did 65 of those, and it's pretty cool. It resulted in 3 connections to open shootings or homicides that are currently being investigated in Portland, and 1 with Oregon State Police. So without us submitting those, maybe those cases would never have been solved. So we received somehow the murder weapon or a weapon involved in these crimes, and we were able to now connect that to those cases. So it's pretty cool. Our special investigation team, their whole goal is to impact related activity involving the possession, sale, and manufacture of drugs that directly affect our city. This is a collateral duty, so our officers, there's 8 of them and 2 sergeants, do this and don't interfere with their daily activities. So they do it either on overtime or during overlaps of shifts. And you can see they've been very successful in 2023. They did 31 missions, took 14 people into custody, 7 search warrants. I was able to identify 3 houses that being chronic nuisance property according to our municipal code. And you can see the amount of fentanyl that they seized this last year. 2 milligrams of fentanyl is considered a lethal dose. So we don't know how many people we impacted, but I can guarantee we saved some lives. So. I'd like to talk about Val real quick. Again, the budget committee approved a case manager, and then the commission adopted it. But we're very thankful for that, and we just finished our command interviews, and we sent 1 to background, so we're really excited. So hopefully in the near future, by early March, she'll start, and so that's looking good for us. Our model of VHU continues to be mirrored by several agencies around us, and kind of like the catalyst that that every agency is trying to model. So it's been a good adventure for us, and she's helped us out a lot. You'll see, I said that our calls for service were trending down in behavioral health, but if you look, she had 532 total referrals made to her, over 42% increase from the year before. 163 in-person outreach contacts. Of those, conservatively, she said, 70% related to homelessness. And then beyond that, the good work she does is she's training our staff, city staff, other community partners, and getting people trained in mental health. And so she's provided a valuable service to not only us and the city, but our community. I want to talk about our training division real quick. I won't dive into too much, but you can see training is very important for us to make sure that we're maintaining our standards. In 2023, we did just over 7,600 training hours. Traffic stops, search and seizure, a whole gamut of stuff to make sure that we're staying up to date with current laws and our training certificates. Our homeless liaison, you guys know about him, but it's very important to have that outreach. We still continue to do monthly meetings with our community partners. It's one Friday a month, and we partner with the CCC, the college, the DA's office, Sheriff's Office, Father's Heart, 4D, Love One, and many other partners to try to help address homelessness in our community. This was a big one, and this is Newell Creek Canyon, and I think we didn't really realize this was city-owned property initially, right? And then we took a closer look at the map because it's kind of in a unique spot right there on Beaver Creek at 213. And we realized it was our property, so there was a lot of embedded camps in that area. So we worked, this says 7 days, but that was the minimum when we finally said we are cleaning this up next week. We worked with our community partners for about a month ahead of time, letting them know that we were going to go in there and clean this up to make sure that we can try to get people the services that they need. In that area, there was 34 illegal camps. There was 33,000 pounds of trash that was taken out of there. And it took them over 15 days to clean that up. So now we worked with, we got that posted as private property. No one could enter there. And I'd like to thank John Lewis and his team for helping us out getting that posted.
I have a question for you about that.
Yeah.
So in terms of once you get the camp out, is there anything that we're doing to try to bring in some volunteer groups to restore some of that property? So it's, I mean, obviously it's been beat down and the ground is really hard there. So any restoration?
So we partnered with CNR Restoration. I don't think they did any restoration. Believe it or not, actually, once it's out of there and Mother Nature has time, it actually heals and goes back fairly quickly and stuff like that. So it's really important that they clean up all the hazardous waste and stuff like that. But yeah, we did not actually pay anyone to go in there and reforest. It could be something that we could
Oregon
consider.
grape, that's very difficult to camp on.
I'm sorry?
Oregon grape,
Yeah.
one of those native species that you don't want to camp on it.
Yeah. Traffic team, when they're fully allocated, we have 3 traffic officers and 1 traffic sergeant. This year, we've bounced around between 1 officer and 1 sergeant, having 2 in there at times. We're just, because of staffing, we've had to reallocate some of our resources, but you can see that they're fully effective. They're out there, they're partnering with our community. They're trying to make our streets safe, and they take it very seriously. They did, we applied for different grants through ODOT for cell phones, DUI, safety belts, and speed enforcement. And so that's spread amongst the traffic team and our other officers. But it's all trying to make our city's streets safer. Getting down there, I'll go through these pretty quickly, but community events, these are what we really appreciate doing, right? Interacting with our community, being one with our community, letting people know what we do. And so we do a lot of community events throughout the year. We also participate in keeping a lot of our city events safe. So you'll see our bike officers and patrol officers down there, but these are just highlighting some of our community events. Summer camp, this came back for the first time since COVID. And this is a great program to get kids. A lot of the kids are kids that have bad interactions or some sort of negative interactions with police officers and throughout their life. Maybe when their parents were arrested, maybe they're abused, right? Counselors kind of like suggest these kids go to this camp. So it's a really good opportunity for various kids to get together. We also, Dave Plummer finds high school counselors to be the counselors, and they do they learn about the police department, they learn about policing, they go on a bunch of fun field trips, and it's a really good event for us. And so we're continuing that. The Citizens Academy is one that we started that, again, this is our second year this year, but 2023 was our first year since before COVID. It's just bridging the gap, letting our community learn about our police department. Drug Take Back, that's a big event that people always want. We partner with the Women's Club, and they pay for the shred event, and then we have both events at the police department now, twice a year. One in, I think, April, and one in October. So we have one coming up that we're already planning for. Women's self-defense class. This is one of probably the highest sought-after classes that we offer. It's a free class that we offer to women. We've done teen ones too for teens getting ready to go to college or just to stay safe in the summer. We also provide classes for Father's Heart. They've reached out to us and asked for self-defense classes that we've offered. So this is probably one of our most sought-after classes that we do, and it's all free. National Night Out is our biggest event. Everyone's been to that or knows about it, but that's one of our favorite events where we get together and share with our community, and we all come together for a night of fun in August. And then finally, Trick or Treat on Main Street. That was Rob Lipke's, but that's a huge event. Lots of kids down there. I don't even know how many thousands of kids and families show up down there, but it's quite an event, and it's fun for us to be out there. I'd like to just quickly talk about agency accreditation. This is super important for us. What it is it's a standard that requires police departments to adhere and maintain 100 legal, ethical, and operational standards. And so we first did this in 2004, and we're the first agency in Clackamas County to get accredited. And every year we've got accredited, reaccredited. So most recently in December 2022, we applied, and in April at the Oregon Association of Chiefs of Police, we were awarded our reaccreditation. November was Rob Lipke's End of Watch, his 10-year. We had an event here. I thought that was really well attended. Most importantly, it's for Wendy and Ziva, but it was also important for our officers, everyone involved, our community, just for people to pay their respects to Rob. And then finally, in closing, I just want to highlight some future challenges. I know we've talked about this before. Succession planning, just is something that we are always watching, right? We have a lot of retirements that have happened and are going to continue to happen. Not that they are going to retire, but in the next 3 years, we have 7 sworn officers that will be eligible to retire. 4 of those are in some sort of leadership position, sergeant and above. So we're really working hard on hiring. Currently, just so everyone knows, there's a 3 to 4 month wait period once you hire someone to get them into the academy. The academy is 16 weeks long, so it's 4 months. FTEP is 17 weeks, which is the field training for a new recruit. And that doesn't even take into account when they applied and trying to get someone hired. So we're at a 12 to 14 month wait to get someone on their own on the street on a new hire. So we're always looking to get new hires, but also a good mix of lateral police officers. And so we're out there recruiting a lot, boots on the ground. Some of the things that we're doing, we're advertising in multiple publications, including the National Minority Update. We're going to colleges, universities. We're going to schools like the high school. We're going to different JBLM, and we're going over to the base there in Clackamas. Just trying to get our word out there, trying to recruit people, get people interested in policing and interested in Oregon City Police Department. And then we always got to be always understanding what our community needs, what the national change is, what legislative change. So the evolution of policing is always changing, and we need to be making sure that we're always changing with that. And then as the city's growing, right, we got to work on how are we going to continue to build our staff so we can continue the same level of service that the community expects of us. So those are the future challenges that we're working on today and we'll continue to work on. So that's all I got, unless I'm more than happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions?
No questions. I appreciate this. It was extensive and thorough, but I learned a lot about the police department that I thought I knew, but I didn't. Anyway, thank you for that. I learned a lot from it. Well done.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Chief, for the presentation. It was very thorough and comprehensive, and so I appreciate that. My only question is related to, I believe I've heard of a multi-jurisdictional position that is currently being worked on. Is that the case?
Multi-jurisdiction.
Like several cities getting together to fund some sort of homeless liaison or behavioral health type unit?
But I know, so originally when this all first started, Clackamas County had behavioral health, right? And so we had to rely on them. they were busy. We just didn't get the services that we need. So we're like, that's when we decided to branch out on our own. So we started our own behavioral health inside, and Val started, I think, in December of 2020. Since then, Clackamette, Camby's got their own behavioral health. Lake Oswego and Westland have their own behavioral health that they partner with, and Milwaukee has their own behavioral health. So all those behavioral health, they all work together. So there is a CIT, I don't know, which they work together on the most challenged individuals that we need to work with, try to get them services, mental health, any wraparound services. And currently all those individuals are homeless. And so there's a CIT team that works together, meets, I think it's monthly, it might be more, and they share resources and try to work with them. But I know it was talked about, would our case manager be able to help out the other behavioral health specialists? And currently, I don't think, based upon our caseload, I want us to get in there, wait, see where we're at in 6 months to a year before I even offer that, because I think we take on so much more than the rest of our agencies around us that I don't think we can share. But when Val's on vacation, right, Amber or Brandon or someone will step in and we call them when we need help, and we reciprocate that too when they're off. So it's kind of a team, but we're paying for ours, but we're kind of sharing our resources.
Okay, because I had recalled, I think maybe at a C4 meeting where there were a couple cities that were talking about hiring a joint position, and so I didn't know if there had been any movement on that.
I know
obviously we go above and beyond already.
Yeah, and I know we're partnering with the same agencies that I mentioned, that we're partnering with them for a database that we can use to share information, but also it's protected, right? So we're partnering with Lake Oswego and us. We're gonna the spearhead of that, but all the other agencies are paying their fair share, and we're gonna share that same software.
Michael, anything?
Well, I did have just one question. On an early slide in your presentation, you had broken out calls related to behavioral health issues and calls related to homelessness.
Yep.
So if there's a call, a homeless individual, and it's obviously a behavioral health situation, how is that?
Yeah, so the initial
how would that
call,
be categorized?
So
Trying to get a handle on.
basically, yeah, so when dispatch receives a call for service, they get as much information as they can, and they title it a type code, whatever they feel is best, right? So it could be someone that's suicidal based upon the information. It could be someone that's having behavioral health issues. Who knows what it is? It could be a theft, it could be a robbery. It may not be what's really happening, but that's the best information that they can have at the time. So then our officers go out there and investigate. Then our officers determine, they may change that call type, but they may just leave it as it is, and then they'll clear, if it's homelessness, it may overlap multiple different things. Maybe they committed a crime, a theft, but they're having a behavioral health, but maybe we took a report or we arrested them. We'll clear with that homeless call to know that that's kind of like the end of that. It was a homelessness related. So these calls and these clearance codes can overlap.
Okay.
So
I was just trying to get a handle on,
right,
on how much of the situations you get involved with homeless individuals, how much at the root cause is a mental health issue.
Yeah, it's quite a bit, and it just may not come in. So it's interesting, that might be the initial call that dispatch got, but we get this quite a bit, like someone, an unwanted, right? Dispatch is gonna get the information, say it's at Safeway, and someone's not leaving, refusing to leave, they're unwanted. Dispatch will call type as an unwanted at Safeway. We go there, and that person may have behavioral health. So the initial call for service was not anything to do with behavioral health, right? But we may need to get Val out there. She may come out and do one of those contacts. We may refer the case to her. Maybe that person is also homeless. We may clear with an H code so we can then kind of keep track of how that does. So it's not very easy. So trying to break down these stats can be kind of difficult at best at times, but we try to do our best to categorize that to get the best information out there.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You bet.
So I wanted to follow up with you on the, you mentioned on the different trainings that the police department is going through, and I know that the police department under Chief Band started doing the DEI training. So how is that progressing? And then the second question involves What are we, how much, well, I know you're doing a lot, so you can tell everybody else how you're doing on integrating the department in terms of getting more officers that are trying to reflect our community,
Yeah.
and then women.
Yeah. So lots of questions there. So I'll start with the first. We do a lot of different trainings as involving DEI or some sort of DEI. We focus on bias-based policing to understand that. We talk about stops. We have different, a lot of these things are daily training bulletins. So in our policy manual, we have every day, we have a daily training bulletin that goes out, and it covers a scenario, and so we can cover that. We also have, we bring in people. Val did some training on understanding different people with disabilities. So we try to do as much as we can. Captain Edwins and I on Friday are going to a Red Door project in Beaverton, Evolve. So that's going to be really good for us to understand. So anything that's out there, we're trying to
I want to explain to them what that is.
Evolve. So the Red Door project, and I don't know exactly when it started, but they've done a couple improvs where they have actors that relate stories. So it first started with, I think, Hands Up, Don't Shoot. And they did that, and they did that for a period of time. And then they brought in police officers to talk about their interactions that they had. And I don't remember exactly what that title of that section of the Red Door project was, but now they're combining both of these and they're calling it Evolve too. And we had a presentation at our chiefs meeting from the founder of that, and it seemed very intriguing. And so we're going to that, and a lot of agencies in Clackamas County are participating in that. That's Friday and Saturday. But yeah, we're trying to do as much as that. So like I mentioned, as far as recruiting, our goal is to get out there and try to get as many people interested in policing, especially with Oregon City, and get them interested in applying. So like I mentioned, I think it's the Minority Project. We're advertising there. Anywhere we can advertise to attract any individuals that would be interested in this. So it's just to get our name out there. We're going to the JBLM, which is up in Vancouver. I can't remember the base over there. It slipped my mind.
McCord?
No, over in Clackamas.
Oh, in Camp Withington.
With the Camp Withington, yeah, sorry, thank you. They're hosting one coming up, and so we're sending a couple officers there. So we're trying to get out there. We're going to universities. We're going to as many different places as we can. We're going to create some recruiting videos to attract people. So again, the goal is to get as many people in our community and around our community interested in policing, especially Oregon City Police Department. I think one of the biggest factors is our boots on the ground. Our officers are out there. If they have an interaction with someone that interests them or that they could see being a police officer, right, they're out there recruiting as much as they can. And we have several officers that are doing it. We started a recruitment team that are overlooking different ways of where we can go and what we can do to advertise. And then you had another, and then women. So it's the same thing. It's, at times, when I first started, I think we had 2 women. First started, I think we had 6. We've had 2. So we're always trying to recruit as many people as we can, including women, to get involved with policing. So that's what we're doing.
One of the things that I frequently run into is that people tell me, and I hope you can continue to say this, they say, well, such and such happened in my neighborhood or at my house, and I didn't want to bother the police. And I said, please bother the police. I mean, I've been drilled into me by your predecessor, call.
If people don't call, we think everything's going great out there, right? And we know it's not. So we do ask when people say that, please call us, right? We want that stuff reported. We may or may not be able to take a police report, but at least we can then have that information and use it. Just recently, I think it was last night, maybe 2 nights ago, we had some, we don't know who yet that I'm aware of, go through a neighborhood and start opening car doors that were unlocked. So please report that. Even if it's simple, if no one taken anything, please report it so we know, so we can allocate our resources to figure out and try to solve those crimes.
So it may be a pattern, something like that. Yeah. So please tell the public call.
Yeah, you're not bothering us. We appreciate every call, so please call
I
us.
just said, please document it, please. I got a report about an incident downtown, some people leaving a business that they all went to their parking spaces together, and there were a group of people hanging out that made them very uncomfortable. And I said, did you call police and report that? Well, I didn't want to bother them. I said, please call them after the fact and tell them so that when they're doing their patrols down there, they will, and apparently it happened twice. They didn't call either time. So I said,
It happens all the
please
time.
call.
Even our own departments don't always report. And not to pick on parks, but a lot of times they don't want to bother us too. But we don't know about something that doesn't get reported to us unless we see it. So please, everyone report it so we can deal with it and have more accurate. I think crime is in the nation everywhere. It's always underreported for whatever reasons. So please report it.
Okay, public, you heard that? Please report it. No matter how small, please report it. Okay, thank you so much for that very informative report. All right, so number 6 and 7, we have the adoption of the agenda. And is there anything on the consent agenda? If not, to look at later, then I would ask for a motion for approval of items 7A through 7F.
Do we need to pull 7B to discuss it based on the letter we got today?
Please.
Okay, move to pull item 7B.
Right? So we have a motion to approve everything except 7B.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda except for item 7B.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell,
Aye.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell,
Aye.
Commissioner Rocky Smith,
Aye.
Commissioner Adam Marl,
Aye.
Mayor Denise McGriff.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay. Do you want to go ahead and take 7B like right now?
Up to you.
Yeah, let's just get to it. The public hearing is going to be fairly brief.
I think it's John.
7B, as in bingo. And we don't have a Wile E. Coyote situation where he's falling in a manhole or anything.
All right, well, thank you. So I apologize for the late email, but I was out sick yesterday, and when I got in today, found out we had received a challenge bid protest to our project award, which is on the consent agenda. We're not changing our recommendation for approval of the contract tonight, but we wanted to put this in front of you, and so I'm just going to read the email a little bit of the email that I sent you today, because I don't have any slides. By the way, excellent job with that slideshow.
You're doing well with your graduates. I think that's a tribute to your.
I'm not sure police should be making fun of engineering anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Thank you, John.
I think I heard described as comprehensive. I don't get that kind of a description for mine, but comprehensive, very good. Let's see. So this is item 7B, is being protested by Cascade Industrial Services, who is one of the bidders who submitted for the project. Staff report touches on this bid irregularity, but doesn't go into the level of detail because we didn't know we were getting a bid protest. So in the email that I sent you, and I know you probably didn't have time to look at this, but is the letter that they submitted calling for the protest, and I also attached what's the key document here, which is their bid form, where they made the mistake. They actually listed their total in the unit price section. So you may be able to pull that up, I'm not sure, but that to me is the key document. I don't know if you remember looking at it or not, but on that form there, we make it so that they put a unit price, and then they apply that against the number of unit quantities that they have, and then that's their total bid price. Well, they didn't do that properly, and that's unfortunate because what they listed in the base total was calculated correctly, but we consider that a bid irregularity, and when we have those, we consider that a non-responsive bid. So tonight, I guess the mistake that they made, we can't fix. We've talked it over with our city attorney. You know, it's not something that to me, it seemed like a pretty straightforward bid irregularity that we would consider non-responsive. And in doing that, we moved to the next lowest bidder, which is what we've done and what's in your recommendation. If we didn't do that, I think we've got much more liability from the next bidder to make a same kind of, or a similar kind of protest, suggesting, hey, you didn't do it as your document, as your request for bids suggests you will. So, I mean, those are the big thing is that they made a mistake that was unfortunate. You know, it's monetarily wise, it would be great if we could kind of go with that low bid, but we can't. And I guess there was some other things in the letter that he acknowledged that I think while there's some truth to that, it doesn't really apply to our decision tonight. So we could talk more about that if you want to, but at the end of the day, we're going to go through a bid, or not a procurement, we're going to go through the bid protest process. Normally that doesn't even come to the city commission, but since in his email, he specifically asked that we share his letter with the commission, share other documents. So I've given you the engineer's recommendation, who's also familiar with our contract and our contract provisions and any bid irregularities, and then our city engineer's letter notifying them of the decision. So I guess the only other thing I will add was we do feel like this work, this is a contract that we bid once before and found our own set of, I will call it mistakes in the contract bid document. So we pulled those. And so this was the second go around with our bid. And so, or solicitation of bids. So we're already kind of later in the year than we wanted to be. This kind of work we'd like to happen in the spring when their groundwater table is still fairly high. So I feel like if we're not going to make a decision on moving forward with this one tonight, we probably are going to miss that window. So we might as well, I mean, it's time sensitive and that we want to get it done. We want to dry up these manholes because they're leaky, but I would suggest we move to a year later and get a different wet weather season. But I think based on what you've submitted, what we've discussed, we're pretty solid on our decision as recommended. So that's what we're hoping for.
So we'd like a motion.
I'd like to comment.
Go ahead.
In my formal education, and which included an engineering education in the preparation and submittal of bids, the instructor emphasized a number of things to me, that the bid was submitted on time, and 12 o'clock meant 12 o'clock, not 12:01, that the bid was accurate in every respect, that the person submitting the bid was responsible for any and all errors in it, and any of those could disqualify the bid on its face. So I've got no problem moving forward with the bids as you suggested tonight. Thanks.
Motion. Yeah, there's a motion. Do we have a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the public improvement contract for the 2024 manhole rehabilitation project. I don't need to say the name of the firm, do I? As presented in the staff report. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell.
Aye.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell.
Aye.
Commissioner Rocky Smith.
Aye. Aye, sorry.
Commissioner Adam Marl.
Aye.
Is it aye?
Mayor Denise McGriff.
Aye, sorry.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right. Okay, now item number 8, second reading of ordinance number 241002, approved zoning text amendments to the I institutional district to allow recreational vehicle park as an allowed accessory use for the Clackamette Park to City Code Section 1739030, and I'm not going to read the file number. So are there any questions about this? Do we need a report? It's the second reading. Is there a motion?
I just wanted to point out in the staff report, and Aquila can come up if there are other questions. Just wanted to point out that the Planning Commission had discussed, made some recommendations concerning allowing private RV parks in other zones throughout the city. You know, at our last meeting, we kind of addressed this at the end. So we just wanted to point that out. I don't know that it specifically impacts this proposal, but we did want to pass along that the Planning Commission had that discussion. So at least you're aware of it. And if that is something that we want to discuss at a later date, we can do that.
But it's not part of this particular request, so.
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
Is
there anything I missed on that, or? Okay.
Any discussion? Is there a motion for second reading?
Move to approve the second reading of ordinance 24-1002.
Okay, and seconded by Commissioner Smith. Please do the reading.
Ordinance number 24-1002, an ordinance of the City of Oregon City approving an amendment to Title 17 zoning, Chapter 17.39 of the Oregon City Municipal Code to allow a recreational vehicle park for Clackamette Park as an allowed accessory use within the I institutional zone, and an amendment to Title 17 zoning, Chapter 17.04 of the Oregon City Municipal Code to add a definition of a recreation vehicle park.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell.
Aye.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell.
Aye.
Commissioner Rocky Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Adam Marl.
Aye.
Mayor Denise McGriff.
Aye. Okay,
Motion passes.
unanimously, and this will go into effect 30 days.
Correct.
Okay. Well, I didn't actually open the public hearing, so there was nobody here, so we'll just keep moving on. So general business, anything under general business? Oh yes, the Beaver Creek and Development Grant Intergovernmental Agreement, IGA Metro City of Oregon City for Beaver Creek Road Industrial Land Readiness Strategic Plan Study. Woo!
A long word. All right. Thank you, Mayor McGriff, Commissioners. I'm here tonight with Ann Griffin, who was feeling under the weather, so I'm going to try best to put her hat on for a couple of her slides. But this is really a co-departmental project between Economic Development and the Planning Department, and we'll be bringing in Public Works staff as we move forward to look at our obstacles analysis. So Oregon City recently received a Metro Planning and Development grant to look at barriers to employment and industrial redevelopment in the Thimble Creek Concept Plan area and some parcels just west of the Thimble Creek area north of the high school. It's a $44,000 grant. Oregon City's match was mainly staff and a little bit of meeting time and printing supplies. Metro Council approved all of the 2040 planning grants in their January meeting. And so with the City Commission approval of this IGA, it allows Oregon City and Metro staff to finalize the contract. So just a brief overview. I know this was brought up in the fall when the City Commission provided a resolution of support. But the purpose of this grant was to examine the obstacles to industrial and employment development in the Thimble Creek area. In our conversations with property owners, residential development seems to be moving forward, but there over time has been some discussions of obstacles. And so we want to have a little bit more cohesive approach to understanding what the particular obstacles for redevelopment of this area for employment industrial lands. These could be high infrastructure costs, regulations, physical land constraints, lot size, market conditions. Not all of them will be things that the city can actually, implement solutions to, but understanding the package of obstacles will be helpful for the City Commission if they want to move forward on any action plans. So this is the study area. It involves all the Thimble Creek Concept Plan area that is zoned campus industrial or mixed-use employment, and that's on the east side of Beaver Creek Road, and campus industrial on the west side. The outcomes of the report will identify strategies and actions the city can take to encourage possibly facilitate industrial development. The consultant and staff will interview developers, property owners, other stakeholders, including Clackamas County staff, As part of this work, we'll be working with our Public Works Department to identify infrastructure, potential infrastructure obstacles. And the final report will be an action item. And as a way to implement any action items or resolution, adopting the document will be helpful if we move forward for additional grants. If there's a specific, action item that we can move forward, especially related to infrastructure. We've highlighted something. So the next steps, the request for proposals for one or more consultant teams will be moving forward this spring, and city staff will be reaching out to property owners. Actually, we already have done some initial outreach, but we'll be reaching out to all the property owners in the study area and better understand their short and long-term goals. Some property owners want to move forward and redevelop soon, and others do not, but they may want to at a later date. In the fall, a draft report will be presented to the City Commission, looking at kind of a final adoption by resolution in the winter of 2024. So your options this evening are to approve the IGA in your packet, approve the IGA with modifications, though that would need to go back to Metro Council if you had any specific modifications, or do not approve the IGA. So I'm available for any questions you may have this evening about the grant.
Before we get to questions, I would like to have, see if Mr. Graham could come up, because I am very excited about the collaboration between the two divisions, and I just wanted to get his thoughts on how he sees this working together.
Thank you, Mayor. We're very glad to be working together on this particular project because, as you know, the Beaver Creek area has been a challenge for the whole city for a while. And this will give us an opportunity to talk to the property owners, find out what their issues are. This will give us an opportunity to work with planning to determine how the zoning impacts some of the decisions and concerns that the owners have. And so it's a very cooperative way of looking at one of the challenging areas in the city that has precluded development over the years. So we're very glad to be working with planning.
Any questions?
Well, I know that we talked about this before, and then you felt, as Economic Development Director, that one of the issues was insufficient land mass of any size to attract. So I would hope that one of the goals of this project would be, if you have 10 4-acre parcels, to engage those owners to maybe form a collective and offer a 40-acre parcel, that type of thing. I'm usually not a big fan of this, but I'll probably go along with it because all it does is authorizes a study. There's no further obligation beyond that.
Correct.
Do I understand that? Okay.
I think the only obligation is you have to acknowledge the report when it's done, but not adopt it. You just have to acknowledge and hear it.
Yeah.
Do one of you?
Yes. Lukewarm.
Just trying to figure what I want to say.
This is a collaborative process.
Yeah, so this was something that I was on the Planning Commission the last time this came up, and one of the big challenges is if you try to overlay what we want to go on in that district on top of that ugly checkerboard ownership pattern, they don't match up. And so, I keep thinking willing buyer, willing seller. Getting all of those sellers in one spot is going to be pretty darn tough. And I guess the bottom line, I realize there's an opportunity cost involved in the staff time. But if we were going to do this on our dime, I probably wouldn't be in favor of it right now. But since we have the grant, we are spending staff time, and there is an opportunity cost to that. But I think it's probably worth doing to try to get some sort of sense of where the owners are headed. And what we're out is, I don't want to say just the staff time, but we're out that the opportunity cost of that staff time, but we're not really out of pocket. So it's something I can support on that basis.
So this doesn't touch the college at all?
No.
I
Like the land touches the college, but the college is not in the study area.
Yeah. So what I wanted to say is I'm going to go into the Wayback Machine. So when we looked at this zoning many years ago, we did something very similar to what you are doing now. We had a meeting of the minds. We got together with all the property owners, told we we're going to rezone this area. We sat down with them, asked them, some of them are still the same, because I've been in touch with a couple of them, they're still there. And I'm not going to try to predict what I think you're going to find, but one of the things I know, and when you were talking, I was doing this, because somehow or another we have an area where people think their land is worth way, 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 way more than what it can be, what the economies of scale are. And part of the issue has to do with the fact that we don't have any infrastructure there. And nobody's going to buy a piece of property for $1 jillion an acre if there's no services to it. And the city is kind of reluctant to extend services there if we don't have anything that we think might happen. So I think this is going to be an update from that information. And Ms. Hurd Ravage will tell you that we had a similar discussion at our DSP meeting about residential land and why it is so difficult because, well, you know, somebody told them, oh, your land's worth this and I can sell it to you for this. Well, that only works if somebody wants to buy it for X. So I support this fully because I think the information that we have from 15, 20 years ago needs to be updated, although I know some of the property owners, like I said, are still the same and some of those same issues. But I think that the idea about, you know, we tried to do that by getting people together saying, if you go together, somebody will be interested in a bigger piece. So I'm hoping we will be able to make more forward progress and maybe have some reality checks for some of these property owners. And this is an area that has so much potential, and we need this. So I support this grant. So is there a motion? I would do it, but I can't make the motion. I can second it though.
I move to approve the 2040 Planning and Development Grant Intergovernmental Agreement with Metro.
Second. Rocky and I are both seconding. Second. Let the record reflect so.
Oh, Jesus.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell.
Aye.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell.
For the reasons enumerated by Commissioner Mitchell, a lukewarm aye.
It's an aye, I'll take it.
Commissioner Rocky Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Adam Marl.
Aye.
Mayor Denise McGriff.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right. So under communications.
The one update, I'm going to request Mr. Lewis to come up to provide an update on the work that's going to be going on Holcomb Boulevard for some sidewalk improvements by Holcomb Elementary, as well as to just inform the commission, some of the tree removal that's going to be occurring in order to accommodate that project. So just wanted to ask John to give this presentation here tonight.
Thank you.
Do you have slides?
I have slides.
Well, it's a complete meeting now. John's got slides.
Are you entering tonight's
Feeling
competition?
good about that.
He's already the dean of the John Lewis
Thanks to my
School of
staff,
Project
they
Management.
equipped me with the slideshow. So we're still remaining pretty excited about the Holcomb Safe Routes to School project. If you remember, there's a grant that's associated with it, but it's about a $2.5 million project. We're starting to be a little concerned about whether or not we're going to be able to get it done for $2.5 million, but we're still moving forward on that. And the idea there is to add really bike lane and sidewalk along Holcomb Boulevard on the what would be, I guess, more the north side of the road or the school side of the road. So it'll complete sidewalks from really Winston Drive all the way down to the school. And there's a couple of rapid flashing beacons that go in up on that section as well. So again, we're adding that sidewalk and bike lane. If you're familiar with that stretch of Holcomb Boulevard, it's the side that's kind of upslope as opposed to the side that's downslope. And so we're having to take some of that frontage away from some of those property owners in the form of a dedication. And that will include basically an 8-foot sidewalk. Some areas there's going to be a retaining wall. Some areas there won't be a retaining wall, but there's going to be a significant amount of grading. And the proposal is curb-tight sidewalks because we don't have a lot of room along Holcomb. That's true. In fact, Jackie talked a little bit about Holcomb down the hill from here. Same thing there. It's just so tight because of some of the slopes in those areas. But that's true here too as well. But we're proposing tree wells. Not excited about those tree wells, but we're proposing tree wells in there. And then again, that short retaining wall. The other big part of the project is most of the power poles are right where we need to be with the sidewalk and the curb, and we've got drainage issues up there too. There'll be street lighting. So we're working with the franchise utilities to move those power poles up slope from the new sidewalk and new bike lane. And that comes with its own set of challenges, and you'll see it in our schedule. We've been working pretty closely with them. I would say our right-of-way program is another good program in that we've got pretty much daily communication with our franchise utilities. So that helps when it comes time to actually remind them regularly about this particular project and the needs for them to kind of get their poles in place and get those lines moved over. While we'll have street lighting, it's not where it's shown in this graphic. This is just a graphic that we pulled off the web, but it'll be more in that furnishing zone between the along the line with where the trees will be. So we won't have the sidewalk right in the middle of we won't have the street light right in the middle of the pedestrian way. So I don't know if this was obvious to all of you, but it was obvious to me, but it became really apparent that we need to get in front of you because we've got some tree removals associated with this project. And that's probably going to be one of the first things that happens because for the power companies to move their poles, they've got to get in there as well. So we, all part of this project was a pretty extensive tree survey and an arborist report that goes along with that. But at the end of the day, it looks like we're going to be pulling out 17 trees along the frontage there where that sidewalk and bike lane will be placed. And so there is a little bit of question about this count here. We're certain about the 17 trees. As I was talking through it with staff this afternoon, I'm not sure if we've got existing right-of-way, we've got right-of-way that we're going to acquire as part of this project, and then we've got trees on private property that need to come out, either because they're in that corridor where the power lines are going to be, or they're in the new public right-of-way, but the minute we remove them, we're going to sacrifice those trees as well, or there's a few trees that I think just some of the neighbors in negotiating with them over the right-of-way, which for the most part sounds like they're going to give the city. In exchange for that, they want some tree removal, or they want we're also doing tree replacements on their property as well.
I went up this route and I could see I went up this route and I saw that, there's a lot of dead trees up through there.
Yeah, we found some dead trees up there, and so this slide kind of represents that. We've got 3 trees in significant decline, 1 severely declined, 1 dead. We've got 4 that are going to be in conflict with our retaining wall, a couple more that are in conflict with the grading associated with the retaining wall, 5 in conflict with just generalized grading, and then 1 tree that's in fair impact that's going to be impacted by the removal of other trees, so we need to remove it as well. And that's a big one. That's a 26-inch.
So is that mailbox in the public right-of-way?
That mailbox is in the public right-of-way, yes. Isn't unusual.
Yeah. Again, we inherited all of this from the county.
Right. So again, our main reason for tree removals is they're dead or declining. They're in conflict of what we're proposing to build. Or, just in working with the property owners, I think there's 6 property owners up there. Some wanted some things out of that as opposed to a paid check. And so we're working with them to make sure that happens so that we get the right of way and the easements that we need. This slide is hard to read. It's basically just a mapping of where those trees are at. Some are in the existing right-of-way, some are in the future right-of-way, and some are just on private property, but we're trying to classify all those. And then I thought, just for the sake of your understanding, trying to share some pictures associated with each of these trees. So all 17 trees show up in the next two slides, well, this and the next slide. So, you know, there are some dead trees for sure, but there's some not dead trees that we're having to remove. That one on Oak Tree Terrace, pretty nice Doug fir tree. There's really no, it's right in the middle where the sidewalk needs to be, so there's no avoiding that. And then here's some more, again, combination of healthy and non-healthy trees, but right where we need to be with infrastructure. And as much as we don't like to remove trees, I don't see how we can get any narrower or do anything meandering or anything like that, right? It's just, there's just nowhere else for them to go, for the improvements to be placed. So this count is a little bit questionable. That was part of this afternoon's conversation, but I went ahead and included it. I think it's consistent with the arborist report, but there is some trees that we've got mapped, a few more trees that I think are in the proposed right-of-way than what we show here. But at the end of the day, we've still got the 17 trees. I guess the piece that I'm really here to get a head nod on is that we know the mitigation and the tree removal process for removal of trees in the existing right-of-way. It's different than if you're on private property, right? So if you're on private property, there's really not a mitigation requirement. So the top one, we've got a mitigation requirement. We go through the planning process. That's a city removal tree process. We'll go through that process. Those that are in the proposed right-of-way, in theory, those trees will be removed before they become right-of-way. So do we follow the trees that are in the public right-of-way process, or do we follow the process that's on private property? And then, of course, those that are on private property, we would have no mitigation to remove those. So disregard the tree counts, again, because I think that there's probably more trees that are in the proposed right-of-way than there are on private property. So, you know, either way, that mitigation. But the question for me is, or the question for you that I'm asking is, public dollars are going to be used to pay for those tree removals, whether they're on public property, proposed public property, or private property. And we've been pursuing following the code. So my staff is like, well, we don't have to mitigate those trees. And you know, I think we agreed we better talk about this with the city commission before we go down a road that we are unforgiven for. But still the 17 trees, it's just, I mean, I think the question is really mitigation. And so that's, you know, something for you guys, for you folks to discuss. Our intent is to save as many trees as possible. We've talked to the neighborhood and neighbors and, you know, all the folks we need to talk to. There's a desire for, you know, tree mitigation. We are already, just so you know, we've got 14 street trees planned along the alignment that would be in tree wells. And then staff couldn't give me an accurate count, but they said double digits in terms of trees that we're going to be planting on private property. So that's somewhere over 10. So we will be taking credit for those as mitigation, and depending on how the numbers lay out, we may hit that number. I'm just not sure about it yet. But the real question is, if it's on private property, is the expectation of the commission for us to do something that's something other than what is in our code? And then we want to provide the right trees in those tree wells, because those are 4x4 tree wells. We want to make sure we've got the right tree for that.
What's the width of the sidewalk?
It's an 8-foot sidewalk.
8, okay.
And then our schedule, again, we're pressing up against the deadline. We were hoping to get all of this done by the time school is back in session and by September. We think we're going to go over that, but we're going to try and keep those improvements such that they get the school effective work done first. And then, again, those tree removals are gonna happen, early on, probably before we bring all the rights of way and easements to you for approval. And then we hope to get the project out to bid. Really our biggest challenge isn't that, it's that work with those franchise utilities. Because as you may know, you move the pole, then you gotta give PGE time to move their facilities, and then everybody else that's hanging on that pole has a fair amount of time to make their progression down the list. So I'm not sure who all's on the lines, but I'm guessing Comcast, Lumen are on those. And so we're talking to them now, but we're hopeful that we stay on track with that and we can move forward with what's turning out to be a pretty tight project schedule.
And I think the reason I asked John to bring this is because I think that, several years ago, we came up with a policy and code requirements that identified tree removal related to public property project, within a park and public rights of way. To me, on this one, in talking with John and his team, we've obviously identified the trees that are in the existing right of way. It felt like, based on the intent of that code, that the trees that are going to be in the right of way that we're acquiring should also be mitigated per that policy. It's really a timing issue there. What I don't think is that, these trees that are on private property, that we're either removing because we need to because of retaining walls, or in negotiation with the property owner, that those, in my opinion, shouldn't be mitigated to the same level or at all as based on that policy. So this is kind of a gray area where it's been very clear on projects that we've been able to follow. This is a little bit nuanced in that we're having impacts outside of the right of way, sometimes by our own design requirements or in negotiation. So really it's that kind of private property tree removal associated with a public project. Does the mitigation requirements as if it were in the public right of way apply or not?
Thoughts, gentlemen? Frank? Just gonna go down the line.
I agree with the latter of what you just said about not applying the same standard.
Yes, that makes sense, yes. Thoughts?
I agree, but, I think that the amount of trees that we're already, accounting for is 20-ish.
Right.
Right? And that's, I think that's a lot too, so I think that's substantial.
Adam?
I agree.
Mike?
Yeah,
Okay.
I agree also.
Yeah, so we all agree with the staff proposal. Please, we're saying, please, you go forward with that.
Yeah. So we'll
But
mitigate everything that's in the
I just want to make
proposed
sure.
right of way.
Hold on one second.
We are talking about mitigating for the ones that are going to end up in the right of way.
That's what I heard.
That's,
Yeah.
I
Okay,
think and I truly believe this meets the intent of what we're trying to do.
I
I
just
just
wanted to
know
make sure we're
that it is
all
going to be
in the same
very
boat.
visible. Folks are going to be, come to you, and, there's this little bit of a gray area about this private property tree removal that really isn't contemplated in the code that we have. But I do believe the intent and the tree replacement that's occurring, I think exceeds what the expectations are per the code. Okay, great, thank you.
All right, commissioners, any communications? Thank you, John.
Tonight.
No.
Mitchell? Okay. I have a brief one, and I will keep it brief. As you know, at the end of our last meeting, one more thing, sorry. Ms. Raines, I'm going to put you on the spot for communications. Anything you'd like to say now that this has been your second meeting?
Just that I've been spending a lot of time doing meet and greets, going to various committee meetings, and just really trying to get to know staff and the inner workings of the organization. And I'm really enjoying myself and happy to be here. That's it.
Good. All right. Thank you. So first of all, I just want to thank the community members that came out to talk to us about the proposed resource center. It was a lot better than I thought it was going to be, and I was very hopeful at the end of it, and the information was received, and everybody was very kind and generous. I also want to thank the folks that came to talk about tourism and all the supporters, especially Mr. Don Scott. And in addition, I took some time to watch the video from our last meeting, and I sent an apology to Captain Lowell Gillespie because with all the noise going on and everything going on, I realized I couldn't hear what he said, and I couldn't hear what you were saying. So I sent him an apology and told him that he would be more than welcome to come back and chat with us when he gets back from his trip. So he said he was going to be doing that. I don't know when that'll happen. And then lastly, as you're aware, at the very end of the meeting, we had some raised voices at the back of the room, and I understand how passionate people can be regarding their concerns. I sent some information to former Commissioner Nasita, explaining to him a little bit about the process, as I know he is aware of that, and I also issued an apology to him with the caveat to work collaboratively to keep the lines of communication open. And he did take my apology and he posted it on a website. So I was kind of surprised by that, but I'm just saying that, and I also want to apologize to the four of you. And last not least, I wanted to give a shout out to the Oregon City K-9 Corps. It was an awesome group of dogs we saw last night. So Slate, Ronnie, and Grindle, and also their amazing human partners, Dan, Alan, and Jason. So it was very informative, but also depressing. Not the dogs weren't depressing. It was just the amount of, we talked a lot about the issue with drugs in this community and how it's ravaging not only our community, but it's causing problems in other communities. And I'm appreciative for all their work. And I also found out, and I will be getting you some information later, that there is a retirement fund for our dogs. Grendel is the senior dude there of the three, and we want to make sure that he is taken care of. And I said to Jason, why don't they have PERS for the police dogs? They're employees, and they do a lot of work. And he goes, well, that would be nice, because then they would have some retirement. So that'll be a subject for another day. And just thank you to all the staff for all your work all this week and last week and the week before. So, and there being no further business, I'm going to adjourn the meeting. I will adjourn it too.